Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. My name is Kaylee.
And my name is Desi.
Be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell next to the subscribe button to turn on post notifications. Before we get into this case, we always encourage those who have useful information to any unsolved case, please report it to your local police and sheriff department.
Every day, somebody different gets murdered. It's the vicious cycle of life in every corner of the earth, and luckily, some murders are solved. Unfortunately, most are unsolved and remain that way forever. Today, we will be covering the strange murders of Russell and Shirley Dermond.
Russell Joseph Dermond was born on June the 6th in 1925. He was born and raised in Hackensack, New Jersey. Russell served in the Navy during World War II. After the war, Russell went on to be an executive for a clock-making company. Shirley, she was born on July the 7th, 1926. She attended Barnard College in the 1940s. Russell and Shirley Cox Dermond got married on December 15th, 1950. They went on to have 4 kids. Their kids' names are Mark, Brad, Keith, and Leslie. They also had a whopping total of 9 grandchildren. The Dermonds moved to Georgia in the 1980s and built their dream home on a lake. After working in the fast food industry, including owning a whopping total of 19 Hardee's locations in Atlanta, Georgia, Russell retired in 1994. The Dermonds went on to live in Great Waters Reynolds at Lake Oconee, which is a gated community located about 12 miles northeast of Eatonton, Georgia. Eatonton, Georgia only has a population of 6,000 people and is known for its very low crime rate. In 2000, their oldest son, Mark, was murdered in Atlanta while attempting to buy crack cocaine.
The events leading up, though, Russell was last seen alive on May 1st, 2014. He was running errands in Eatonton, and Shirley was last seen playing bridge at the nearby Plaza Arts Center. Along with Shirley, Russell spoke with his son, Brad, over the phone later in the day. The Dermonds were supposed to attend a party for the Kentucky Derby hosted by their neighbors Hewel and Peggy on May 3rd. The couple, obviously, did not show up for this, which concerned their neighbors as the Dermonds always showed up to events like this. On May 6th, Peggy and Hewel decided to check on the Dermonds.
Keep this in mind, the Dermonds were in their late 80s at this time. The Winds found the previous day's newspaper in the mailbox, which is super odd. What is even more concerning was the fact that the back door to the Dermonds' house was left wide open. The Winds called out and searched every room in the 3,200 square foot house one at a time. Nothing was out of place to indicate anything suspicious had happened. It was spotless. On the kitchen table was the Friday, May the 2nd edition of US Today, and the crossword puzzle was partially done. Hewel went back to investigate the garage he had just been in and discovered Russell on the ground, in a pool of blood between Dermond's 2 cars without his head. I would be shocked if I saw that.
I'd be like, I'm out, I'm calling the police real quick.
I'm
I'm not dealing with that.
You cut this shit, I'm out.
Time to go, they might come for me next. Like, sheesh. But here, the investigation, of course, Shirley was nowhere to be found at all. There was no evidence she was anywhere close to the home, in the home, around the home, anything. Russell appeared to be decapitated post-mortem due to lack of arterial blood spatter. No marks, bruises, or stab wounds appeared on Russell's body, and there were no signs of a struggle in the house or in this murder period. Nothing was stolen, phones, Rolex watches, etc. Everything appeared intact inside the house. A missing persons report was put out immediately for Shirley Dermond on the news, radios, etc. The FBI put up more than 100 billboards in and around Eatonton, offering a $20,000 reward for any information on Shirley's whereabouts. The sheriff's department scoured the lake with cadaver dogs and divers with no luck. They even used a remote operating vehicle to look in the lake, but still no luck.
Ironically enough, of course, the cameras were not working at the time. Of course. And then 10 days later, at the lake 6 miles away, Dennis Higgins discovered Shirley's body while fishing. Shirley's body had been weighed down with 2 30-pound cinder blocks. It's fucking massive. And the cause of death was blunt force trauma, specifically from 2 to 3 blows to the head. Gunshot residue was later found on Russell's shirt collar. This led the police to think Russell's head was not taken as a trophy, but out of necessity to stop the bullet from being found. There was no blood, no mess, no signs, nothing, indicating that Shirley was killed at the house. What's even more strange about this case is that someone took the time to hide Shirley's body, but Russell's, they did not. They wanted his body to be found.
Which is fucking weird. Like, why would you go to the trouble to hide one body but not the other? Like, did you do it intentionally?
Makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, like, you got me confused on this one, fam. But into the theories, which unfortunately for this case, there's not very many theories because they did not have a lot of things to go off of course. But theory number 1 is shady business. Police speculated very early into this case that since Russell was from New Jersey, this is so stereotypical of them to guess this, he got involved in some dealings with the mafia. This is possible that this could have been a hit put out on the Dermonds after something went wrong, and that Shirley would have just been collateral damage in this case. Some even speculated it was the cartel and could have somehow been connected to their son, Mark's death in 2000. Russell's head would have been quote-unquote proof of death for this, but they did not find any suspicious emails, bank transactions, etc. to support this theory. The Dermonds were very clean-cut people on paper.
Yeah, they're definitely straight edge.
Yeah, for sure. I just, like, you know, this is so stereotypical of the police, though.
Of course, yeah. They always, like, pick some crazy wild thing. Oh, the mafia was involved. Nah.
Always. Always.
Then there's number 2. Somebody or something wanted something. So, Russell owned 19 Hardee's franchises in Atlanta, Georgia. He was also an executive for a clock company in New York. At the time of the death, the Dermonds had a net worth of $1.5 million. I will say, though, a lot of their net worth was their house itself.
Oh, yeah.
The Dermonds did live comfortably, and they did have plenty of toys to show for it. Although the Dermonds didn't keep valuable art or hoards of cash in their home, maybe somebody assumed that they did. It's possible the Dermonds disrupted a robbery. The killer/killers would have threatened the couple with extreme violence if they didn't cough up what they wanted. Then they would have killed them in rage after realizing they didn't have it. There was no evidence at the crime scene to support this theory, and I myself don't really feel like this theory is a good explanation. And the reason why I feel that way is typically with robberies, the robbers typically are not going to go to like extreme lengths of like killing someone. Sure, they might have like a gun or something, but usually they're not going to go and decapitate someone. And if they can't get away with the robbery without doing something extreme, then they're probably just going to abort the mission. This just doesn't make any sense at all.
Not just that, but like, you know, you would think they would have taken any other possessions as well, but they didn't. Right. Everything was like
everything
so
was
untouched.
Left there.
Yeah, it was so untouched.
They didn't
like,
take a TV.
Bro, I would have taken a TV. I would have taken all that shit. I don't give a fuck.
Xbox, PS5.
Bro, I'm taking your fucking dishwasher. I don't care. I'm gonna take all
the dishwasher.
I need a good dishwasher, my guy. I can sell my old one, put a new one in, I just need a better dishwasher to clean my fucking dishes, okay? Look, my dishwasher, she's kind of a piece of shit sometimes. I gotta clean this shit like 2 or 3 times. I'm like, damn, you gotta go, honey boo. But into the very last theory, which is theory number 3, a serial killer. November 9th, 2005, Lois Colley, 83, was found bludgeoned to death in her laundry room at her home in North Salem, New York. Lois was married to Eugene Colley, who is a McDonald's franchisee worth $100 million, baby! Oh, I need a man like that, for sure. The murder weapon was a fire extinguisher missing from the home that was never found.
What?
Yes! And like the Dermonds, there were no suspects and no motive. Both cases share some weird similarities, such as both couples were wealthy, no signs of forced entry, and both couples lived in gated communities. Nothing was taken from either home, and both husbands were fast food franchisees. Now, I will notate that they did actually, in the case of Lois Colley, arrest a man who he confessed to the murder and said he had a grudge against them. So that case has been solved, but
That's good.
still some weird similarities,
I've
too.
never heard of anybody using a fire extinguisher as a weapon.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, I guess. I don't know.
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, you smack the back of somebody's head, you crack their skull, it's over.
Now on to some Reddit comments. We love Reddit comments. And the first one is from the forums called Unsolved Murders of Russell and Shirley Dermond in Georgia in 2014. Got Nothing Better to Do says, "This has always been such a sad case. Last I read they had a pretty good lead, but nothing has come of it yet. Their son has always thought it was done by a serial killer." Just what Desi just said.
See? I'm not the only one!
Frankie Hella says, "I went way down the rabbit hole a few years ago. There were even pictures of inside the house. I think it was listed for sale at the time. I think those in the know seem to think someone approached it in a boat." I could definitely see that. "I seem to remember it was a gated community and there weren't any records of unknown people entering. It's been a good while, so I might have some things mixed up. I'll tell you though, as soon as I read your post, I could picture the house. I spend entirely too much time on true crime. Another kind of similar case that I think about often is Barry and Honey Sherman, although they had a lot more potential business/money motives for their murders." Yeah, this one, there's not as much.
There's not really much information to begin with because they don't have any, lead. There's no evidence at the crime scene, even.
Right.
It was, spotless.
I feel like if they found his head, that's, the missing key.
Yeah, because, once you get the bullet, you can trace it back to the gun, the exact gun who, it was shot from, and then it'll lead to the owner. But that is why the head was taken in the first place, so they couldn't identify who shot him. And what's even weirder is there's no blood spatter or anything inside the house, so I feel like he was killed somewhere else and they just stuck him there.
Yeah, I
Which
could
is
see
fucking
that.
weird.
And definitely Shirley was killed somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
No blood splatter in, where she
The house was
found.
spotless.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy.
Crazy.
Well, this person is deleted, so that's their name now. This is a very interesting case. I would say someone spent lots of time committing the crime, perhaps trying to gain information from one or both of them before they were killed, probably concerning where the money was or how to access it. The perps obviously knew a lot about them and that there were no security cameras on the property to record their deeds, and that the two would be alone and had no pets or workers coming in and out of the property. My guess is a relative or a friend.
Yeah, I definitely agree with someone had to know them because their house was just so private.
Yeah, it was. It was secluded more so from their neighbors. It was more back in the woods and stuff, so somebody would have known where they were.
Yeah,
Maybe it was one of their neighbors.
Yeah, they either had to know them really well or study where they lived really well, but I feel like more than likely it's someone that knew them.
Yeah, you know what would be really crazy though? Okay, so if it is one of their neighbors, what if it's the Winds, the people who found them?
Can't rule out any possibilities. You still need his head. And then now to this Reddit post, the unsolved murders of Russell Dermond 88 and Shirley Dermond 87. Dr_Donald_Dan. Wouldn't it have been easier to just get rid of the gun if the bullet could be tied to you in some way? I mean, throwing the gun in the lake has to be quicker than cutting off someone's head. So I wouldn't think that was why poor Russell was decapitated. Could it be a trophy? Nothing about it makes sense. Was this a random killing?
Mumford Booby says, "I've rabbit holed this case for years, and ultimately I can only sense of it as a thrill killer freaks, because Nothing about the case really makes sense, and I seriously doubt the mob hit proof of life theories.
Yeah, that's more just for attention.
Oh my god, and then a Mumford movie, again, absolutely no clue. I like the theory of a deranged, pissed off contractor type too. The fact that Shirley's body was taken by boat to dump because the location wasn't accessible by car or foot really points to a local. I don't know, it's a really insane crime scene. The fact that there was apparently nothing stolen, and in fact no evidence that anyone even entered the house itself, is very fucking odd. It's hard to imagine a criminal who'd go to the effort of murdering these people but couldn't be bothered to steal Rolex watches. I'm saying, though. So you're left with revenge hatred as motive, but the victims seem like ordinary, vanilla, retired people with no enemies, which leaves sick fuck thrill killers, or a family thing. But that appears to be highly unlikely. Disgusting. I don't like that. And here we go into the mafia theories again.
Oh,
Killer catnips. This seems like a target to hit, and the head was for proof. Then again, they could have been targeting the wife for torture. Made her watch her husband be shot in the head and decapitated, and then she gets beaten to death and her body hit in the lake.
that sounds gruesome.
It is, but the mafia is very gruesome when it comes to
That is
hits.
true. And the cartel's very gruesome as well.
Somebody said, OK-He-2678, decapitating a head is very easy to do given the proper instrument. As weird as it feels to write that it is relevant, it would be interesting to know how clean it was and what the weapon tool might have been. I wonder if they ever figured that out. I don't think they did.
They probably didn't because they would have needed to find, like, his head and stuff.
I mean, but, like, you would think they'd be able to tell by the cut on his neck, too.
Right.
But maybe not. I don't know. No, wait, this theory, though. Party Wishbone 6372. The fact that Shirley's body was weighed down and dumped in the lake has always struck me as odd, especially since Russell was left behind. Could Shirley have had another child that she adopted out as a young adult? Many women in that position never told their husbands or any subsequent children. I could see a situation where the birth child, or even grandchild, contacts her and she rebuffs them. Maybe their childhood wasn't the greatest and they imagined their birth mother or grandmother would be more welcoming. Turns out she's not, plus she and her husband live in this big house with lots of money. Their fantasy of a happy reunion destroyed. Adoption reunions are not always a good thing. My old boss is adopted and he never wanted to look for his birth parents, mainly because as far as he's concerned, his adopted parents are his parents, but also because he knew other adoptees that had less than positive reunion experiences.
That's crazy.
No, maybe with records being sealed back in those days, probably not.
Right.
You would think they would find evidence of that, but maybe not if they didn't look too much into it.
And then Sully_opportunity says, the odd thing to me is if this was just someone who randomly wanted to unleash brutality on this couple, why did the killer weigh her down? The article mentioned they were noticed to be missing when they failed to show up for Kentucky Derby party. Could he have been gambling debts? Not really has anything to do with the other, but it made me wonder.
Interesting.
It was interesting. Yeah, pretty much this case has kind of left me like speechless. Like every like theory you look into, there's always like something that makes it not make any sense.
This whole thing doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Like, what? That's so weird. Let
It's
me just
weird.
say, I don't want to go out like that. Don't let that happen to me, please.
Yeah, that's like really messed up. You have to be really messed up to go and kill an elderly couple.
And get away with it, too.
Right. That's just like killing a child almost.
I mean, killing period is wrong. So
Right.
you're right. Mm-hmm.
So to this day, this case unfortunately remains unsolved with no leads. We can only hope that the Dermonds children may eventually get the closure, but it seems like they're just left with an unfortunate mystery. Leave down below in the comments what you think happened.
And as always, thank you for listening to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. Remember to always keep your eyes open because you never know when you'll be the next person to be beheaded.